Senua Saga Hellblade 2 is gonna split people right down the middle. We got ourselves a cinematic, photorealistic story doled up as if it's a highly interactive game. You'll either be happy as a clam as to what the sequel brings, or you'll be pissed at what a snooze fest this game is. And if the trade press is anything to go by, they're just as split. Eurogamer and Games Radar gave this the old perfect scores like they're on the developer's payroll or something, while GameSpot and PC Gamer reckon it's worth a measly 6. So what's the Cockney Gamer saying? Well, grab yourself a cuppa and let's explain all in today's review. The original Senua's Sacrifice broke new ground, didn't it? It tackled stuff no one dared touch in gaming before, with actual medical folks holding Ninja Theory's hand to make sure that they got the mental illness aspects right, and boy did they deliver. We got a story-driven experience with visuals that would make your nan's knitting look like modern art, and sound that had you feeling every ounce of Senua's agony and torment. So the stage was set for a sequel to take those themes and run with them whilst taking risks to evolve the gameplay. Well, so you would think. Sadly, Senua's Hellblade 2 is best described as Margot Robbie with the flu. Sure, it's a beautiful looking thing with photorealistic visuals. Yes, it's got the same incredible sound, technically speaking, but we'll go into that later. But Christ almighty, the gameplay is as sick as a dog, with as much versatility as a screensaver. And before any of you lot start chirping on in the comments with, well, this is what's wrong with gaming today, Reggie, always after a load of diluted crap and they can't handle anything that requires a bit of intellect. Well, let me just put it out there straight up. Story-driven games that take you down a linear path with little to no choice in where you go or how you tackle objectives doesn't make them inherently bad. In fact, some of my favourite games are exactly that. Take Detroit Become Human, for example. That's a masterclass in how a story-driven interactive game should play out. Your choices actually matter, and while it might be light on traditional gameplay, it's still interactive with its QTEs doing its best to pull you in. Your decisions shape the ending, making each playthrough unique. Or look at God of War, a distant cousin to Senua Hellblade. One continuous camera shot draws you into its sprawling saga between father and son. It's a proper game first and foremost, with rich combat and jaw-dropping set pieces, but the story is where it truly shines, packed with cutscenes that highlight the fragile father-son relationship. And let's not forget Shenmue if we go back a bit further. These are all brilliant games where the story is everything, but if you're going to make a game like that, you better make sure it's rock solid. And that, my friends, is where Senua 2 is a right shambles. First off, let's tackle the elephant in the room, mental illness. Just like before, the voices in your head, they come at you from all directions, whether you're rocking a home theatre setup or a pair of headphones. Your eardrums are in for a treat of ASMR goodness, bombarding you with a stream of consciousness that matches what's happening on screen. The problem is, in the original, it set you on a journey, unravelling the frailties of Senua's mind. It was as much about as understanding your character as it was about telling the story. Here, it offers the square root of all. It barely weaves into the story at all. Suddenly, the barrage of voices feels more like Senua's got a superpower, verbal diarrhea, babbling on non-stop. It's supposed to show that Senua's not all there upstairs, but instead it just royally does your own head in, and that's where the story turns into a load of old tosh. Before, you were never quite sure what was real and what wasn't, which added to the mystery of Senua's state of mind, but it never made you doubt the game's validity. Now though, you're tackling beasts and mythical giants, and everyone around you sees the same thing. So maybe Senua ain't as off a rocker as we all thought, because I'd be bricking it too if I saw some of these monstrosities. Then there's the argument that maybe it's all one big hallucination from start to finish, and Senua is actually in an alleyway somewhere, puffing on crack and making this all up. And that'd be fine, but the story doesn't give you any hints or clues, no breadcrumbs to suggest there's a bigger piece of the puzzle waiting to be revealed. I always think of the original BioShock as a great example of that done right, but here it's just about saving your people from a bunch of nutjob Vikings. It feels all over the place, a proper convoluted mess. Compared to the first game, it lacks the coherency of self-discovery that made it so compelling. As for the gameplay, there's absolutely none. To show you how daft it is, I'm currently on paternity leave looking after my little baby. Reviewing games for the channel for that reason has been a bit tricky and slower, but a lot of the footage that you see here was done with me feeding the baby a bottle with one hand and holding up on the controller with the other hand to make Senua walk through the bloody level. It's really that simple, and I wish I could say I was talking bullshit to all of you, but sadly it's what you'll be doing most of the time. And just when you think you're gonna get some puzzles to spice things up, you're left disappointed. Look at a shape, match it to something in the world to unlock its path, just like the first outing. And while it was boring then, it was forgivable because nothing had come before it. But now we should be expecting new ways of thinking, new ways to invigorate the walking simulator. Instead, in Senua's Hellblade 2, you'll be dragging one metal sphere to its resting place to open up a path or lighting a plinth to show where another plinth is. It's bonkers to me that Ninja Theory didn't push the boat out here and make these aspects challenging, involving and rewarding to complete. Even Stevie Wonder could finish these with ease. Then comes the combat. It's gruesome, beautifully animated and graphic to the extreme. The first few times you're slicing and dicing an enemy, it feels amazing. Every thrust, every chunk of flesh pierced, it's just as you would imagine it. But after doing this 10 times, you realise how basic, how easy, and above all else, how bloody boring it gets. There's no tactical thinking here, no decent AI, no challenge, no risk. You just dodge or parry incoming attacks and eventually whip out a magical mirror to slow down an enemy and bash them to bits. And this goes to my earlier point. A story-driven game is all well and good, but there's no excuse to skimp on the gameplay elements when all the ingredients were there to make this a frantic, exhilarating experience. Instead, we get a combat system so repetitive, even a toddler could master it. It's like giving you a gourmet meal and serving it with plastic cutlery. What a waste. Graphically, I could write a novel on Hellblade 2. It's phenomenal, easily the best looking game of the year, and its photorealism is a sight to behold. Beads of sweat run down her skin where you can see individual pores and hair stand on end. The eyes, my god, the eyes, they look amazing. Sometimes they say more than actual words, showing fear, sadness or relief after a battle. The environments are top notch too, with incredibly detailed and high fidelity models rendered in every inch of space, creating a world where each scene could be displayed in an art museum. It's a beautiful looking story, no doubt about it. But let's play devil's advocate here. There's nothing dynamic to contend with because ultimately it's a linear and rigid walkthrough. Everything's in a controlled environment. There's no dynamic weather, no dynamic day or night cycle. The environments, while beautiful, seem a bit flat and lifeless. You don't get the impression these places are lived in. Instead, they feel like setups by some incredibly talented artists wanking off about their skills to everyone else. And that's not to hate on the graphics, because how could you? Instead, I'm asking what the value exchange is with the player in terms of its gameplay. For example, you know you can climb this ledge, but you can't traverse it because, well, you. That's why you know you could bypass this haunted house by walking down this little path here, but you have to go the way that they say. Now, we get this in other games like Resident Evil or The Last of Us, but there is still a sense of exploration in those games as you explore other rooms or houses before you eventually hit the geographic objective. But here there's such a tight hold on you as the player that you never truly care for the character because you never control your actions. The art and design make you believe in the possibilities of the environments, only for you to be shut down by its stiffness. And yes, that is what she said. Sound is brilliantly done, and earlier I mentioned this on a technical level. It's a masterclass in how to bang out sound in a game where everything on screen marries up to the movement and action sequences. It's so well acted, so well delivered. It's an incredible achievement that any sound designer would be chuffed to bits with. The musical score and sound effects are also bang on, and for my money, there's little really to moan about it, bar one thing. And it ties back to what I just said about the graphics, the value exchange with you as the player. The technical marvel of having voices playing out directionally through various speakers is impressive, and games don't do it enough. But after 2 hours of this, you can't help but feel it's a bit overdone. The directional sound doesn't give you any clues about the environment or tip you off about an enemy's attack. In fact, it sounds like a bloody rowdy bar at times. It's a technical showcase, sure, but so much more could have been done to give it a purpose. All the hard work's been done, but they missed out on its potential. That doesn't mean the sound gets a knockdown for it, it just means it could have been so much more. Look, most of my reviews get around a 90% like to dislike ratio from you lovely viewers, but in this instance, I reckon it's going to be more of a 50-50 split. Simply put, if you enjoyed the first outing, you'll love this. It's more of the same, and the 6 or so hours it takes to complete will probably leave you wanting more. And I too loved the first game as it broke down so many barriers in gaming and introduced us to a load of new and unexplored experiences. But I always think a sequel should try new things and take new risks unless its gameplay elements are already now down tight. Senua had so many places to expand and grow, so many opportunities to develop into something more than a pretty walking simulator. This ain't a game by any stretch, and even with its stunning visuals and delightful sound, it ain't much of a story, truth be told. After such an incredible first outing, Senua Saga Hellblade 2, much like its protagonist, limps and stumbles through a world that's both confused and unsure of where to turn next. Until next time, my lovelies, Reggie out.